Hello and welcome to the Preparing for Success, how to prepare for desk reviews, site visits, and other monitoring activities. My name is Jamil Evans with OJP TFSC. And before we begin, there are a few announcements I would like to make. This live discussion webinar is being hosted by OJP, or the Office for Justice Programs. If you have any technical issues during this session, please contact OJP TFSC at usdoj.gov. You can access the informational brochure and the FAQs with the links that I'll provide in the chat shortly. To ask questions during this session, please use the chat box to the right-hand side of your Zoom session. In order to have the most accurate attendance, please tell us the number of people joining you in the session, including yourself. Everything except the Q&A discussion will be recorded today. And since your feedback is so important to us, at the end of the webinar, we'll provide a survey link that you can complete. So let me share these links for you. So before we begin, let's go over a couple of Zoom tips. On the bottom left-hand side of your screen, you'll see a microphone icon. Just click that icon to unmute yourself and click it again. You'll see a red slash. That's how you know you're unmuted. And if you're dialed in over the phone, you can unmute your line with *6. If you're not speaking today, please ensure you mute yourself just to avoid any background noise or any interruptions. To the right-hand side of that microphone icon, you'll see a video icon. You just click it to start your video. Click it again, you'll see a red slash. That's how you know your video is off. To the right of those icons, you'll see your chat icon. You just click that to open up your chat that we spoke about earlier. And so let's just post in the chat the last thing you have for breakfast or dinner. So let's see what we got coming in. Oh, Nicole, tacos. Grace, coffee. Great. Beef stew by Francis. Okay. I see everyone's already familiar with Zoom. So if you want to send a private chat, you can also do that with the drop-down menu. You can drop it down. You can select who you want to send your private chat to, and just compose your message. Pretty easy. And on the top right-hand side of your Zoom screen, you'll see a view icon. You can change your viewing experience by clicking that. You can go with the speaker view or the gallery view. So let's meet our presenters. Our first presenter is Crystal McNeil Wright. She's an associate CFO for the Grants Financial Management Division in the Office of Justice Programs, and she brings more than 30 years of leadership and management experience. Crystal is also a published author on a book on parenting. We'll also have Edith Faith Sunga. Edith is the Financial Monitoring Manager at the Grants Financial Management Division in the Office of Justice Programs, bringing more than 30 years of accounting and financial management experience with the government, nonprofit, for-profit, and international organizations. In addition to managing a team of staff accountants, conducting financial monitoring reviews on Department of Justice grants, Edith has been conducting various grants financial management trainings for the DOJ grantees. Also joining us today is Gerani Savara. He's a financial monitoring manager for the Evaluation and Oversight Branch, bringing 30 years of experience in accounting and auditing to the position. We'll also have Nicole Zamora Nisbet. She's a financial specialist for the OJP TFSC, serving the American Samoa, Northern Mariana Islands, Guam, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Also joining us today is Russ Bermejo. He's a senior training and technical assistant specialist for the OJP TFSC. Last and certainly not least, we'll have Francis Mendez. He's a project director for the OJP TFSC, and Francis has a background in law, social work, and business administration. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to Crystal McNeil Wright.
Thank you so much, Jamil. Welcome to all of you in our Pacific territories, our grantees from Guam, North Mariana Islands, and American Samoa. We are so excited that you are able to join us today. It is evening for all of us, for many of us, and we are happy to accommodate you in such a way so that it's not difficult for you to attend these trainings. And so we're so happy that you're able to join us. As Jamil said, my name is Crystal McNeil, Wright. I am the Grants Financial Management Associate CFO. It is my division who is responsible for the financial monitoring and all of those pre and post award activities on your grants, financial activities. And so today we have an agenda lined up for you. Next slide, please. So we're going to be doing a financial monitoring presentation and Q&A. So really it's preparing you for financial monitoring reviews. So here you will learn everything that you need to know to be in preparation for those types of reviews that OCFO staff within OJP would go out and do for you when we are on site. Of course, we're not traveling now, but remotely. We'll also do some case scenario activities, have some Q&As there, and we'll have an open Q&A discussion. And this is where you'll be able to ask all of your questions and anything that's been burning with you that is related to financial monitoring. And then finally, we'll have some closing remarks and next steps. So again, it is our pleasure to be here with you in collaboration with the Territory Financial Support Center. I'm going to now turn it over to Edith Sunga, who is going to conduct the presentation. Take it away, Edith.
Thank you, Crystal. Hello, everyone. Have a day. On behalf of the Office of Justice Program, Office of the Chief Financial Officer, we'd like to welcome you all to our financial management training webinar focusing on financial monitoring. My name is Edith Sunga, and I'm from the Office of the Chief Financial Officer, Grants Financial Management Division. Today, we're going to talk about why we need to financially monitor our grants, the types of financial monitoring reviews we perform, our process in conducting desk reviews and site visits, and finally, we're going to talk about our top 10 findings. The primary objective of financial monitoring is to protect taxpayer funds from mismanagement and misuse and ensure that grant recipients are in compliance with legislative, regulatory, and administrative requirements of their awards. We look at your financial management system, written policies and procedures, and financial records to ensure that they are adequate for administering grant funds. We want to obtain reasonable assurance that you maintain adequate internal controls to protect those federal dollars. We want to make sure that you comply with the appropriate program guidelines and federal regulations, as well as the terms and special conditions of your award documents. We will evaluate your overall financial management of the grants that we have awarded to you, and based on this effort, we will provide you with technical assistance and recommend improvements as necessary. We have two types of financial monitoring reviews: on-site reviews, where we perform our monitoring at the grantee site, and desk reviews, where we perform our monitoring right at our desk. Monitoring is a limited scope review where we use audit techniques to examine and assess our grantees' accounting system, internal controls, and related policies and procedures as they relate to federal grant transactions. Once our monitors receive their monitoring assignment, they will normally contact your DOJ program manager and invite them to conduct a joint programmatic and financial monitoring review with us. A joint review will help ease the burden on our grantees so they don't have to provide the same documents to several DOJ program managers and a financial monitor several times throughout the year. Once the program managers and the Office of Chief Financial Officer agree on a date, we will contact you, our grantee, to confirm your availability. Since we are conducting a financial monitoring review, we always require the financial people to be available during our site visit. After we confirm the dates with your agency, we will send out an official confirmation letter. On that confirmation letter, we will be requesting a number of documents from you in advance to help us better prepare for our site visit. We will also notify your state's U.S. Attorney's Office of our scheduled site visit as part of our protocol. While waiting for the documents we requested from you, we will conduct a preliminary review of the information we already have within our internal system. We're going to check to see the timeliness of the submission of your FFRs and progress reports. If you have indirect costs approved in your budget, we want to make sure that we have your most current indirect cost rate agreement. We will also review your application narrative, budget worksheets, and budget narrative, and review your most recent approved budget to see if there were any changes. We will also review information that are currently in other federal systems. We'll check to see if you submitted your single audit report timely to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse. We're going to check SAM to make sure that your registration is current. And we're also going to check the FAFATA Subaward Reporting System, FSRS, to see if you submitted your subaward information. Once we get the documents that we have requested from you, we're going to review your general ledger accounts or your accounting records to see if you are tracking each grant by approved budget categories or spending plan. For formula grants, we're going to check to see if you're tracking your administrative costs. We're also going to select expenditure transactions and request for you to provide us with the supporting documents for the sample selected. We're going to review your policies and procedures to see if they are adequate in administering grant funds. We're going to compare your cumulative expenditures from your accounting records with the cumulative expenditures reported on the FFR to make sure they reconcile. We also want to make sure that if you have indirect costs, match, and program income, that you're also reporting them on your FFR and reporting them on a cumulative basis. We're also going to compare the cumulative expenditures from your accounting accounts with your total drawdowns as of the end of the particular quarter. Drawdowns should be on a reimbursement basis, except for certain formula grants like the JAG grant and the COVID-19 grants. If your total drawdowns are more than the expenditures recorded in your accounting system, chances are you have excess cash in your hands. And if you don't spend those funds for grant-specific purpose immediately, you would have to return them back to OJP. Next, we're going to compare your approved budget with your actual expenditures. After we verify the accuracy of the total expenditures per budget category, we're going to analyze your budget versus actual for any irregularities. We want to make sure that you're spending within the approved budget. If there are any deviations from your budget, we want to make sure that the total budget deviation does not exceed 10% and there is no change in scope. Whenever you make changes to your budget, it is highly recommended that you let your program manager know to ensure that you are still in compliance. If you have a zero budget category, we want to make sure that you don't have any zero budget expenditures. So for example, if you have, in this example, if you could see supplies of a zero approved budget, and then in your accounting records, we see expenditure supplies, we're going to definitely question that. You must obtain prior approval before you could spend any money on that zero budget category. We're also going to review your single audit report. We will check to see if DOJ programs were selected as one of the major programs audited on your single audit report. And if so, were there any findings related to DOJ awards? We'll also look for any cost-cutting issues. Did we find the same problem during our monitoring reviews with the problems that were reported on your single audit report? We're also going to check the Federal Audit Clearinghouse for your timely submission of your single audit report. Once we get on site, the first thing we're going to do is conduct an entrance conference. In the entrance conference, we're going to discuss the purpose of our review and the results of our preliminary review. We're going to check to see if you maintain an effective internal controls over federal awards and provide reasonable assurance that you are managing federal awards in compliance with federal statutes, regulations, and the terms and special conditions of your federal awards. Example of basic principles of internal controls are maintaining established policies and procedures and segregation of duties. We'll also check to see if you maintain an adequate financial management system and financial records that accurately account for all federal funds awarded to you. These records shall include both federal funds as well as matching funds, when applicable, as well as program income. You may put all your money in one pot as long as you can accurately track receipts, obligations, and expenditures of each individual grant separately by approved budget categories or spending plans. We will select a sample of expenditure transactions and ask you to provide us with documentation to support those expenditures. We'll check to see whether the expenditures are allowable under the program guidelines, allocable, meaning it's within your approved budget, reasonable and necessary for your program, and adequately supported. Finally, we're going to conduct an exit conference at the end of our review and discuss the results and provide you with technical assistance as necessary. When we come back to the office, we will finalize our report and share it with your program managers and our Office of Audit Assessment and Management. You will receive a follow-up letter from us within 45 days, identifying our findings and our recommendations to resolve them. You will have 30 days to respond to us with your corrective action plan to address all our findings. And if you need more time, just let us know and we will give you an extension. Once we get your corrective action plan, we will review your response and additional documentation provided and issue either a partial closure or closure letter. Next slide, please. Okay, desk review. So what do we do when we conduct a desk review? The process for a desk review is very similar to a site visit. We're going to send you an email notification letting you know that we're conducting a desk review on your grant. Attached to our email is an internal control questionnaire, which we ask you to complete and return to us within 10 business days. Your responses to the questions will give us an understanding of your financial management system and grant processes. We're going to conduct a detailed analysis of information contained within our internal system and in the various financial automated systems such as SAM, Federal Audit Clearinghouse, and FSRS. So we're going to check to see the timely submission of your FFRs and progress reports. We're going to conduct an excess cash analysis comparing expenditures reported with your FFR, expenditures reported on the FFR since we don't have your accounting records against your drawdowns. Also, we're going to check compliance with the special conditions on your award document. and making sure you meet your mandatory matching requirements. We have a checklist that we complete similar to a site visit. We're gonna need, if we need clarification or have identified issues, we're gonna contact you for additional information or work with you to resolve the issues. Once we complete our review, we're gonna send you an email notification that the desk review is closed if there are no issues, or we're gonna send you a recommendation letter. At the end of each fiscal year, we analyze our data, review all the issues we have identified during our desk reviews and site visits, and come up with our top 10 monitoring findings for that fiscal year. For fiscal year 2020, here are our top 10 monitoring findings. Procedures not documented or need improvement. This is always on top because the procedures can be related to payroll, could be related to travel, can be related to fixed assets. Number 2, FAFSA reporting requirements not met. Number 3, internal control weaknesses, procedures not followed. You have procedures, but you're not following your procedures. Number 4, FFRs do not reconcile to grantees' accounting records. Number 5, award special condition violated unauthorized expenditures or drawdowns. Pay attention to the special conditions that put a hold on your funds. If you see do not obligate, expend, or draw down, then do not obligate, expend, or draw down funds until the special condition is cleared. When we review the special conditions and the accounting and your accounting records, we look at the dates of the drawdowns, the expenditure dates, obligation dates, for any subawards and contracts. We have cases where grantees sign a contract or subawarded prior to the approval date of the GAN or GAM that released the special conditions. When you subaward or sign a contract, that is an obligation. Please remember that. Next slide, please. Oh, wait. Sorry. Sorry, back up. I'm sorry. Sorry. Yeah, that was number 5. So number 6, inadequate subrecipient files or documentation. Number 7, authorized signing official or contact information not current. Number 8, indirect cost charged improperly, rates expired. Next slide, please. Number 9, excess cash on hand identified. And number 10, there are 2 findings that have equal scores, and they both ended up as number 10 on our top 10 monitoring findings. That is audit report package not received at the Federal Audit Clearinghouse and unsupported costs, personnel, fringe benefits. There are a number of resources out there that can help you properly manage your grants. There are 2 major resources you need to be familiar with, CFR 200 and the DOJ Grants Financial Guide. Use them as your primary resource in helping you fulfill your fiduciary responsibilities. Following them will keep you out of trouble and out of jail. And that concludes my presentation. I would like to thank everyone for participating. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Edith. Pass this. Oh, but before we do that, actually, we have one polling question that we'd like to administer here. So the polling question is, which of the top 10 monitoring findings are you the most interested in receiving TTA in? So as you know, Edith shared the top 10 findings for this last fiscal year. Which one would you be most interested in receiving technical assistance in? Take a few moments to submit your response. And I'll scroll through the results here. Again, which of the top 10 monitoring findings are you the most interested in receiving training and technical assistance in? So we'll take a few more seconds here. Okay. So the top responses were, let me scroll through because there's 10 of them. Looks like inadequate subrecipient files and documentation. Okay. That's great. And the next would be internal control weaknesses, procedures not followed. And then actually number 2, second most frequent response was procedures not documented or need improvement. So that's helpful. That's helpful to us. Here at the TFC, we would be prepared to provide TTA in any of these areas. But just as a way to promote our next webinar series is going to be talking about subawards. So please join us next month for that. Okay, well, let's move on to our case learning scenarios, and I'd like to pass this over to my colleague, Nicole, and she'll be facilitating this learning exercise.
Next slide. So right now we have a polling question. Basically, which of the 3 approaches did you find the most helpful in discussing the case scenario activities? So again, we did 3 different methods. We did the poll. We did where you could respond in the chat or unmute yourself and speak, and then we did a breakout session. So of these 3 options, which is your top choice? I believe you are allowed to select more than 3 for the poll. The poll's not up for me right now. Oh, it's 1-1. Okay. Did the poll show up for you?
Yes, I'm sharing the results now.
Okay, so it's actually not on my screen. So can someone read it out for me, please?
Yeah, so we have 43% for breakout group discussions for scenario number 3. And there's a tie for number 2 for the next 2. For polling questions, scenario number 1, and chat discussion, scenario number 2.
Thank you, Jamil. Not sure what happened. It just did not show up for me. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Francis, and he's going to discuss the resources that Russ mentioned earlier in terms of how we can assist you with job aid checklists and different resources like the guide sheets.
Thank you, Nicole. Hello, everyone. My name is Francis Mendez, and I'm the project director for the Territories Financial Support Center. As Nicole said, and I was talked about earlier, I'm going to talk about some resources we have for you. Thank you. So we have 2 resources that we're making available today, and you should be seeing the links in the chat. One is a guide sheet, and another is a job aid checklist. These are 2 brand new resources. The checklist provides an overview of what documentation is typically requested and what to expect during a review or visit. So earlier, as you heard, there was a question about, can a checklist be provided? So this is a checklist that's designed from the perspective of how the grantee should prepare versus the kind of checklist that the LCO monitoring staff, that was more about how they, do the monitoring duty. So we wanted to make sure we had a customized resource that would be helpful to you. And the guide sheet provides a list of policies and procedures to review and documents to have ready as well during the review or visit. So you can download these from the chat box. So they should be available. If you scroll through it, you should be able to see it, the guide sheet and job aid. And then the other resource Did somebody have a question? I thought I heard something. No? Okay. The other resource that we have is after we complete this webinar series, we're going to produce a summary report, which is going to have a summary of the kind of key takeaways of the live discussion webinar. And it's a resource that you can have in your desk, you can have available, you could share with your colleagues who have not been able to attend, or the kind of key points of the webinar. So hopefully you'll find these resources helpful, and we're always interested in hearing your feedback of what types of resources are you looking for, and what topics you'd like us to focus on. All right, so I'm now going to turn it over to Jamil, who's going to talk about next steps and then close the webinar. Thank you, everyone. Jamil.
All right, thank you, Francis. So before we sign off, let's go over the next steps. So please take a few moments to complete our webinar evaluation survey, and I posted a link for that in the chat. You can also scan our QR code right here with your mobile device. You just open your camera app and just point it at the screen and just click the little pop-up, and that should come to the webinar evaluation for you. And again, we really appreciate you filling out the webinar evaluation. It helps us a lot. To contact the Virtual Support Center or the VSC, you can email us at ojptfsc@usdoj.gov. Responses to email inquiries usually take about 24 hours within the next business day. You can also schedule a consultation call with the financial specialist with the details provided in the chat. And check out our website at ojp.gov/TFSC and sign up for our listserv with the details linked in the chat. Our next event, titled Learning Exchange Training Series number 3, Working Better Together, How to Manage Subawards and Subrecipients, is being held on Monday, November 8th at 1 p.m. SST time for the American Samoa, Tuesday, November 9th, 10 a.m. Guam and for the Guam and Northern Mariana Islands. And those the registration link and everything is linked in the chat as well. And on behalf of the OJP TFSC, I would like to thank all the presenters and all the attendees for a great session. And just a reminder to complete that webinar evaluation for the session using the link provided in the chat. Have a great day, and I hope you all enjoyed the session and may now disconnect.